Hello everyone! Today I have for you an old topic, the fame buff from dungeons. Honestly, I thought that with all the updates from the last period, the buff thing will disappear. But surprise, we still can use this trick. I tested and it's still working. For those that don't know, first thing we search a dungeon. I recommend you to search a dungeon in an area where there are a lot of mobs, bosses, and you are far from the portal. Let's say 2-3 maps far from portal. I would say that it's enough. Maybe a T6 or also T5 should work, black zone or red zone, how you prefer. Red zone if you want faction points, black zone if you want, let's say, might points. I don't recommend T7 or T8 because in general these maps are hunted by players and groups, so you will not have peace to explore. And never in prime time, same reason, to not be disturbed. The idea is to have some more fame while you are killing mobs in open world. This is why we need some help, and we find the little helper in dungeons from the fame buff. The other buffs are only for 1 minute, and this is why it's not worth it so much. But the buff fame is available for 3 minutes, so you have enough time to have some extra fame. Also in open world. While you're searching dungeons, you'll definitely find dungeons where the fame buff is not present. So when you enter the dungeon, you can clear it from the beginning, or you can just go through dungeon, search the buff without killing the mobs. And if you find the buff, well and good. Otherwise, you can exit from dungeon and search for another one, and so on. Why like this? Because if you enter in a T5, T6 dungeon, the loot is not worth it, and most of the time you'll waste your time. But if you see something very attractive and interesting, such as a purple or golden chest, for sure you can give it a try, as I tried here. I saw these two ladies and I was impressed, so I spent some more time. The problem is that my intuition didn't work, because the loot was, as I told you already, really bad. And don't forget that if you'll decide in the middle of the dungeon that you want to clear it, you have to clear also some mobs if you want a chest, so extra time spent. So you should think twice before you make a decision, right? It's the same in real life. Another thing that you have to know is that if you want to run dungeon, try not to die. Eventually, you can use a running build, such as double-bladed staff and the shoes ability to run. Also, if you have a robe with shield, this should also work. Depends on how you manage to run without dying. For me, it works very well with my blight staff. I need to spec it up. I already reached 100, level 100 for all the nature stuff, so Blight staff is one of the remaining staffs from nature stuff. So for me it works very well, this blight staff, if I need life while I'm running, and I also use my boots, of course. For me it's enough, but maybe if you can't run without dying in dungeon, try double-bladed staff, you will not regret it. But use it only in dungeon for running is not very good for killing mobs. And if you want to exit from dungeon, search a spot, special spot, from where you can exit. But let's return to our fame buff. Finally, after a while, I found a dungeon with this fountain full of fame bonus. I use it to be rich in fame. Kidding. So now we have 50% more fame. Exit from dungeon and fast, let's find some juicy bosses in open world or groups of mobs. As you can see, I have that yellow light on me. It's because of this buff. So the thing is that doesn't matter in which tier dungeon you are, you'll receive the same 50% more fame. But if you are in a T8 dungeon and you'll take the fame buff and you go out and kill T8 mobs with 50% more fame, this is nice and better, I would say, than a T5 and T6. But don't forget that in T8 areas you'll find less mobs and less groups of mobs, and for sure there will be some nice groups of players, especially if you go in prime time, but not only. As you can see, I found easily a boss, Juicy. And after these 3 minutes of extra fame, you can search again a dungeon, and so on. This can help a lot to spec up and to have some extra points. Look, prime time, how it looks like. All the exits entrances full of groups. Especially if you are a solo player, I recommend you to check first how it looks like the ambient in some maps, being invisible of course, before doing something. This is the case also for maps, but here with the maps is not so risky if you pay attention and also if you try to open it a little bit far from danger. By the way, if you are checking multiple exits from the portal, for sure you'll be annoyed because the invisibility didn't pass, so you should deactivate it in order to take again another invisibility buff. So for this you have to interact with something, such as this portal, an NPC, anything. In this way the invisibility will disappear. Another method is, if you like a dungeon or you had a map and you clear it and surprise! You also found the fame buff, don't take the fame buff when you found it. Clear the dungeon and then return, take it and exit from the dungeon. For example, this buff is not a wonderful buff. There are 2 types of fountains buffs, one for fame and the other one is for silvers. I would say that the silver buff with 400% more silver is not worth it so much. But this depends on you and your choices. I hope this video helped you. Remember this method or this trick. Let's say you will use it for your benefit and you'll spec up your items, what you like. And let's see how it looks like a full tree with 100 with level 100 for everything. So good luck, be safe, and see you next time. Bye!